Hello, hello, come in closer to me. I want to talk to you for a minute. I'm Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein. Come right in. Welcome, welcome. I'm just coming in from a wonderful Enchanted Self walk in my enchanted world. I'll put down my red hat to celebrate life as a special woman full of wonder. And I have in my hand something so exciting that I picked up that I just have to show you right away. This is the cover that's going to go to Bernice Becker's book, and I hope we can catch it without a lot of glare. There it is, Feel Good Stories by Bernice Becker. And it is going to be the first book in the Enchanted Self Wisdom and Fun series for women. This is a very exciting moment. Now again, before we put this down and I introduce my guest in a minute, I want you to just get a little glimpse of Bernice Becker, this very, very special woman. There she is. Oh, and is she special to me? And you're going to find out the secret why in a few minutes when I talk with my guest. But you just hold your hats, just like I'm holding my red hat till we get to the secret. Let me just remind all of you and those who are new to the Enchanted Self. What is the Enchanted Self? It's all about bringing wonder and wisdom and whimsy into the life and all the enchantment, the daily living of women. We focus on 7 particular ways to increase our sense of joy of living. And they are self-respect, having a sense of self-esteem, valuing ourselves, and then as we value our talents and our potential, and see that we have a lot to offer society no matter what our age and what our background, then we actually work on, in our guts, falling in love with ourselves, seeing our lives as a heroic journey, and really appreciating ourselves. And then the Enchanted Self is all about teaching women how to meet their needs and how to negotiate for ourselves and stand up straight and get what we need. Nobody's going to just put us down and tell us we can't get ahead. And then we work on joy and replenishment so that we don't run on empty. The worst thing is when women run on empty with nothing left, totally exhausted. We don't want that. And we encourage all sorts of wonderful ways of making ourselves feel healthy and full of life. And then we work on belonging so we're not alone, we're not depressed, we feel connected. And we also focus a lot on mentors. I'm a mentor, you're a mentor, we all mentor each other, we help each other. And a senior citizen lady has plenty of wisdom and she's a great mentor, and a little kid can be a great mentor. I remember my daughter when I was busy washing dishes and she was 3. She was a great mentor. She said to me, "Mommy, don't wash the dishes while I'm loving." She knew, you have to do the right things and enjoy life. And then the last gateway is positive action or good deeds. Make the most of our lives, which is what Bernice Becker is doing with Feel Good Stories. Now, to bring these stories fully to life, since Bernice Becker couldn't get down to my enchanted village tonight, I took the liberty of inviting in another wisdom lady who is going to help me share Feel Good Stories and talk about them, and we'll have lots of fun and we'll reveal the secret along the way. So welcome my dear friend May Eisenberg.
Hi everybody. I'm listed, as you'll see later, as a poet-author, but listening to what Barbara Holstein was just saying about health, that's been my concern since I was 11 years old. and I had to fight lack of energy and overweight.
Wow.
And no one could help me because my parents were immigrants and never heard of such a thing. But for all of those years, and I'm 81 now, I've been doing research one way or another on health, and therefore I'm also a part of the idea of holistic healing and also holistic nutrition. Holistic nutrition has been what has helped me from the very beginning, and I'd be dead a long time ago without it because I was born with virtually no immune system.
Wow.
So I thought I'd mention
Then it really helped you because here
Oh,
you
yes.
are at 81.
Oh, yes. Not only did it help me, but I was able to have 4 children and work and eventually start writing when I got older. And I went through a very, very difficult life. Every phase of my life has been difficult, but I've tried to use it to strengthen
Well,
me.
I think that is very, very wise. And if we look at people's lives, most people have a lot of hurdles and ups and downs. I'd like to bring it back to Bernice Becker because we really are celebrating her book tonight, Feel Good Stories. I happen to know that Bernice Becker also had a lot of ups and downs. In fact, her story book, Feel Good Stories, takes us from before she was born, waiting and listening to the family and hearing some of the family dynamics and figuring out maybe what was going to happen, what the family would be like, all the way into her senior days.
That's a very unusual beginning for a book.
Yes, it's a very unusual beginning, and it was kind of tragic because her mother was pregnant with her, still grieving over the loss of her favorite sister, Althea, in the 1919 epidemic of flu.
Oh, yes, yes.
So
they didn't have the
No.
cures then.
So it was not a happy time for her mom to be pregnant, and my Mrs. Becker shares in the story a little bit how she picked up some of her mom's sadness, and yet, of course, still anticipated coming to Earth and being born, which indeed she was. And the storybook moves us along through her days in grammar school, her favorite teacher, some of the despair she had with certain friends, and then her teenage days and falling in love and having to present her fiancé to her her grandmother, who was the matriarch of the family, and all the anxiety that went with that.
I'm a great-grandmother right now.
Yes. And you can imagine that in those days, you didn't just get engaged, you discussed it with the family and in a sense got permission, although I'm sure people snuck off anyway. And then through being a young woman and having her own children and some of the funny escapades of getting older. And finally, the book takes us through some of the funny circumstances of being in her retirement village. And so it is a life, and it is a life with its ups and downs, but every story has a funny aspect to it, just as most things are funny, if we really think about them. For example, we took a cruise this summer to Hawaii. Not a smart thing to do.
When you say we, who do you mean?
My husband and I.
Okay.
We took a cruise. Now, Hawaii is gorgeous.
Yes.
But spending 11 days on and off a boat following a storm is not gorgeous.
No.
Okay? Walking on a boat that's rocking is not fun. And finding yourself, or I should say myself, becoming progressively more slightly dizzy is not pleasant. And by the time we finished this trip and we got to our hotel room back in San Francisco, who do you think gets the one room in the hotel that, for whatever reasons, had an uneven floor that just about drove my inner ears crazy trying to adjust to land again? I get that room, okay? Now, I knew, as even living through this, that it was going to get better and better as time went on. An adventure in the past, better than in the present.
If anything can go wrong, it will.
Yes. So, but Mrs. Becker has done a delightful job. Would you let me share a little bit? We'll start with one or two little episodes from her book.
Why not? I'd love it.
Sure.
I'm sure you would.
Well,
all of you out there.
I think that one of the funniest ones is about her doctor when she was a child, and house calls were still being done. So Mrs. Becker shares with us how Dr. Rubin would come to the house, and he had helped her so many times. In fact, when she was a child, she had had pneumonia, and she had had measles, and so many things that usually are less dangerous today. Anyway, at the age of 12, she says, I overheard my mother telling her friend on the telephone that the teenage child of someone she knew was pregnant. She mentioned that the girl had let a boy get too close to her. I didn't hear the rest. I took her words literally and believed I could get pregnant by being too close to someone.
Don't laugh. That was always how I thought, too.
I began to worry because I had let a boy kiss and hug me at a party where they were playing Spin the Bottle. In my apprehension, I wondered, what if I became pregnant? Would I have to leave school? What would my family and friends say? Such torment for an innocent adolescent. The next day, I insisted on seeing Dr. Rubin, claiming I didn't feel well. It was a warm Saturday, and we walked to his house where he had office hours. I spoke to him privately, and he told me that not in a million years could I become pregnant that way. He then told my mother that it was time she had a talk with me about growing up. I was free of fear. Life had become beautiful again. Dr. Rubin was never judgmental. He listened, really listened. He answered all my questions patiently and understandably. I miss those days when the doctor checked you and you didn't have to have someone else check your temperature, blood pressure, weight, and other things. Yes, those days are gone. I realized there was so much we did not have, like television, computers, freezers, and medicines to treat so many ailments and help us live longer. I could go on. I am thankful that most of us had the care and compassion, though, of the family doctor in those early years.
Yeah, well, let me put it this way. My parents didn't even have a family doctor. We were on welfare. We were very, very poor. My mother did not believe in talking about sex in any way, shape, or form. And my father tried to sleep with me when I was 10. And I ran out of the bed and ran to my mother, and something told me, God, I guess, that he had no right to be in my bed trying to touch me, that it belonged to my mother. How did I know that? Nobody ever spoke to me about it. But I did know. But I know at the age of 16, I would sit down and say to myself, if I got pregnant, I would not tell anybody. I would just go and jump off a bridge and kill myself.
Wow.
That I really thought in my head about because of ignorance. I think ignorance is a terrible thing.
Yes, ignorance is not necessarily bliss, that's for sure.
Far from it.
That's for sure. I want to go ahead with, of course, we can't go through Mrs. Becker, all of her stories, so I'm just jumping around a little bit. But let me go ahead to a wonderful story when she was about 30, maybe 33, 34.
Becker is your maiden name, right?
Oh, May, you're coming very close to a secret that I was stalling a little longer, but I guess Are you pushing the buttons now on the
well, I'm
secret?
afraid we'll run out of time.
All right, so pushing the buttons, let me share this secret. Bernice Becker. Wait, you can come in real close. I don't want anyone to hear except you. Bernice Becker is my mother. That's right. This wonderful, beautiful woman turning 85 is my mother, and I love her with all my being, and she's great, and I am so lucky. Really, it's a gift that she is here, and her stories are a gift. So that's the secret. And if you have a mother, or you are a mother, treasure that person and let them tell you their stories and write them down. Or if you're the mother or grandmother or great-grandmother, you tell your stories to your cousins, your nieces and nephews, your grandchildren. Find someone, tell those stories so they don't get lost.
Knowing now what you know, I think you'll really love this
All
stuff
right, yes,
even more
yes.
than you have already.
So this is an embarrassing moment. It was a beautiful day in February with bright blue skies and clean, crisp air. And I'm going to read it in part and tell in part because we don't have time to read the whole thing.
Exactly.
She's off on the train to New York for a big day out. After breakfast, I dressed for the occasion. As I put my panties on, I realized that my waistband was loose, so I took a safety pin and tightened them. Then, donning a two-piece beige jersey outfit with simple pearls and black suede shoes, I felt well-dressed. After a quick fix of my hair and the application of makeup, I was ready. The day would give me an opportunity to show off my new Persian lamb coat, a special combination gift that Harry had given me, that's my father and her husband, for my 30th birthday and our 10th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
We had gotten a terrific deal from a furrier who was a friend. In those days, terrific deals were really important. Persian lamb was the in fur, and I admired the wide, glossy curl that formed a subtle pattern. I felt like $1 million. My sandwich and coffee lunch finished after she arrived in New York. It was time for me to explore the shopping world of the rich and famous. I went to the ladies' sportswear department where I was eager to check prices, although I had no intention of purchasing anything from the pricey store. Maybe I would just try a few things on for fun. To my surprise, there were no displays of clothing. Arrangements of comfortable chairs and round tables holding little silver dishes of bonbons were in evidence. The customers, both men and women, were simply stunning, with a look of class that comes from confidence, careful grooming, and well-lined pockets. The thought came to me later that perhaps a portion of these unusually attractive people were kept women and gigolos, not uncommon for that era, the early 50s. A smiling saleslady, elegantly dressed and beautifully coiffed, came over and asked me what I would be interested in seeing. I said naively, where are the clothes? She informed me they brought the clothes of one's choice to the customer. How could I say, bring me a bargain? I told the woman I was interested in a tailored ivory washable shirt. What she showed me was lovely, but much more expensive than I had intended. My conscience began to bother me. I had come to the store under false pretenses, and now might be a good chance to make a quick getaway. These blouses are great, but not in my price range at this time. I'm a college student, I explained honestly. Thank you so much. I put my coat on and started to walk briskly past the other customers. To my dismay, I felt my safety pin giving way and the panties sliding down around my ankles. Shame, humiliation, fear, and disgust flooded me. What should I do? I still remember the wide-eyed glances, gasps, murmurs, giggles, and even a few restrained catcalls. I was literally caught with my panties down. I couldn't hide from the unwelcome captive audience, and I couldn't walk away without tripping over my feet. My guardian angel must have been hovering over me because I managed to rise to the occasion. With the coolness of a trained striptease, I stepped out of the panties 1 foot at a time and as gracefully as possible lifted my panties from the floor and dropped them casually into my pocketbook. Head held high, I walked to the nearest elevator, got in, and turned to look at the people behind me. I smiled and waved as though to say goodbye to friends, a gesture that helped me to maintain a semblance of composure. I decided not to let this most embarrassing moment spoil my wonderful day. I would buy the underwear I needed, as the winter chill told me it was time to do. I would walk the 10 blocks to budget heaven where I would feel right at home. As I strolled along, I rationalized that what had happened was not all that bad. No one had been hurt. It was only my pride that had suffered. The onlookers probably had enjoyed the entertainment. Considering the circumstances, I congratulated myself on having gotten out of the situation fairly well. I chuckled to myself. Many people have lost their shirts, but I now belong to that select group of people that have lost their panties. And Bernice, you better wait until your 50th anniversary before you tell this story to Harry.
She has company. Quite a few years ago, I was working at the time. I'm certainly retired at my age. And I'm walking down the street, and I had been losing weight, so a lot of my clothes were beginning to be too large on me. I had a slip on, a half slip really. It didn't hang by the shoulders, and I could feel it coming down. So I slithered into a doorway, stepped out of it, put it in my pocket. I had something with a pocket in it. It was, underwear, women's underwear, very delicate. And I just shoved it in and went walking on.
See?
What could I do?
Absolutely. That's wonderful. And I think one of the great things about Bernice Becker's stories, my mother, is that they do represent the trials and tribulations that have happened to all of us. Either we've had the exact adventure or we've had something very, very similar.
Yes, it's amazing in my particular life how close I come to the experiences of other people. I know that I have a psychic tendency since the day I was a very young person. But I'm wondering if that has something to do with it.
Well, I think that has partly to do with it, that you're unusually astute and creative. But I think that also what happens is that there's a universality of mistakes and embarrassments and just crazy things that happen to us that we feel ashamed about or we don't know how to talk about, and then we end up feeling kind of alone. So when we can talk about them and turn them into humor and what's the big deal, it really helps our mental health.
When you think about it, in New York, you can go be dressed anything you like, you can put on. Anything that happens to you, people don't even care. They hardly notice you anyway. And you can get away with things like that in New York, where maybe you couldn't elsewhere.
That's true. New York certainly has its own uniqueness, but at every stage in life, we have our brilliant moments and also our peculiar moments.
Definitely.
And as you have written in this one little poem, if you'll just read us a few verses, this epitomizes, life. Life is a roller coaster, and we have to not only get used to it, but have fun with it.
Well, I had fun with this poem. I have several here that I could
but I'd like you to read the one on, let me see if we have the right one. No, not sex. That was a good one.
That's very good.
Yes.
We may not have time for both.
You want to? All right. She wants to read
I want to
a particular
show you
one. Then.
what a sense of humor can do. Okay.
Go for it, May.
And the name of it sounds serious. True love, good sex. But it's funny. Come on, let's listen to a bedtime story. True love, good sex in all its glory. It doesn't matter what your age. It doesn't matter teen or sage. It doesn't matter short or tall. Doesn't matter spring or fall. It doesn't matter fat or thin, or if you like the shape you're in. For all good sex, love is the key. Does that sound like a mystery? Just look into each other's eyes. Stick with the truth. Forget the lies. True love is trust and just plain lust. Without true love, all turns to dust. You want good sex all of your life? Then love and trust your husband, wife.
Yes, and you may even reach a point in life where it's not a husband or a wife, and you're sharing your bed or
Whoever
your friendship.
You share with.
Right, and you're happy to have a companion. Where my mother lives, there are many people who paired up in later life, and it's great. Now, please find out more about Feel Good Stories. Come to my website, www.enchantedself.com, or to www.storiestofeelgood.com anytime, 24/7, and you can share in the feel-good stories that we all have. Thank you so much for being with me, Dr. Barbara Holstein, and my wonderful guest, May Eisenberg, who represents that life is a joyous, joyous journey, and have fun with it. Don't feel frightened. Just have a ball. Bye.